So, sir, on 22nd of June, Latvia and Estonia are celebrating and commemorating the Battle of Sauszemes. This battle was one of the main battles in the independence wars of the Baltic states, and British Navy played a key role in ensuring the independence of Estonia and Latvia. Estonians call it and associate with the Victory Day, while Latvians call it the Heroes Commemoration Day. Sir, first question to you is, how many nations joined the Royal Navy on the Baltops exercise this summer?
So the Baltops exercise is the United States Navy-led exercise that's been taking place for the last couple of weeks, and there's been 18 nations taking part in total. But that's just part of a larger deployment called Baltic Protector, where the UK Amphibious Task Group have worked with our close friends and our partners from the other 8 JEF partner nations. So Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Norway. Together those 9 nations have contributed ships and forces and aircraft at different times throughout the deployment. Right now, over the whole deployment, there'll be 37 different ships, all commanded from the Royal Navy's fleet flagship HMS Albion, and we'll be conducting and are conducting a series of demanding exercises across the Baltic Sea that serve to increase our interoperability and refine our ability to respond to any crisis that might arise. The deployment is a really important reminder of the UK's enduring commitment not just to European security and stability, but to the Baltic Sea in particular. As we know, it's 100 years since the Royal Navy's decisive contribution to Baltic independence, but it's also 75 years since D-Day in Normandy and 70 years since the formation of NATO.
You just mentioned NATO's anniversary. So what is the difference between the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and Joint Expeditionary Force?
So they're quite different organisations. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was founded by a treaty, the Washington Treaty, 70 years ago, whereas the Joint Expeditionary Force was founded by a Memorandum of Understanding signed in London on the 28th of June in 2018. Baltic Protector is the first operational deployment of the Joint Expeditionary Force since it was declared at full operating capability. The United Kingdom Amphibious Task Group that I have the privilege of commanding forms the nucleus of the JEF task group and is taking place in a series of exercises across the Baltic, including the Baltops exercise that's led by the US. Now, Baltops is not a NATO exercise, and the Baltic Protector deployment does not have any NATO command and control, but we benefit from the NATO advanced forward presence structures in the Baltic and indeed across the North Atlantic region. The main benefit of the Joint Expeditionary Force is that it's a coalition of the willing. It's a force of friends. And by definition, we don't need a lengthy decision-making process to respond in crises. In other words, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our Baltic partners just like we did 100 years ago, ready to provide our full and immediate support when requested, and we don't need unanimous agreement to do so.
So, what is the current mission of Joint Expeditionary Force?
The current mission of the Joint Expeditionary Force is to develop and demonstrate the capabilities of the JEF through a series of exercises with partner nations in order to reinforce the United Kingdom's commitment to allies in the Baltic Sea region. We've demonstrated our ability as a force during Baltops 2019 to integrate quickly for operations. We did that during this exercise with the US Second Fleet, an enormous exercise with 50 ships, 40 aircraft, 8,500 people on land, in the air and at sea, in order to support all our allies and partners in the region. But it's a huge privilege in particular to command the JEF task group from HMS Albion at a time when our solidarity is just as relevant now as it was 100 years ago, where we answered the call for help from our friends in Latvia and Estonia.
Sir, and last question. What would be your message to people of Latvia commemorating the 100th anniversary of Battle of Sauszemes?
So I think it's really important for all our partners and our friends in the Baltic to remember that just as we was there in 1918 and 1919, the Royal Navy is your friend. we are a force for good, and the Joint Expeditionary Force is a force of friends. That force has proven in the last 12 months that we come together to exercise, to train, and to learn from each other, just like, should we be needed to called upon in a crisis, we'll be ready to fight together.